party?
I am, Your Honor, and additionally, I believe, based upon decision and order of Your Honor, there's only one.
Fine, because my suggestion would be that we go through one verbal allocution. That we agree a Class D felony and one count of assault in the second degree, a Class D violence. With the understanding that my commitment would be 2 to 4 years.
With my client, my thoughts about the case and my belief about
Mr. Powell, how old are you?
27,
Where were you born?
Hudson, New York.
Can you read English?
Yes, sir.
How far did you go in school?
11th grade.
Are you currently under the influence of drugs or alcohol?
No, sir.
Do you have any physical, mental, or emotional disability which would prevent you from understanding these proceedings or your attorney's advice?
No, sir.
The defendant, DiQuann Powell, committed the crime of attempted murder in the second degree, in that the defendant, on or about January 22nd, 2018, here in the County of Columbia, State of New York, knowingly and unlawfully, with the intent to cause the death of another person, attempted to cause the death of such person. That's specifically with the count 1, Judge.
You admit and plead guilty to that, Mr. Powell?
Yes, I.
Thank you.
And then with respect to count 3, further, the defendant, DiQuann Powell, committed the crime of reckless endangerment in the first degree, in that the defendant, on or about January 22nd, 2018, here in the County of Columbia, State of New York, under circumstances evincing a depraved indifference to human life, the defendant recklessly engaged in conduct which created a grave risk of death to another person, specifically firing a handgun on 3rd Street here in the city of Hudson.
You admit and plead guilty to that, sir?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. With respect to indictment number 70093, Mr. Carty?
Thank you, Judge. The defendant, DiQuann Powell, committed the crime of escape in the first degree, in that the defendant, on or about June 10th, 2022, here in the County of Columbia, State of New York, having been arrested for and charged with a Class A felony, specifically murder in the second degree, the defendant escaped from custody.
You admit and plead guilty to that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Additionally, Your Honor, the defendant, DiQuann Powell, committed the crime of assault in the second degree, in that the defendant, on or about June 10th, 2022, here in the County of Columbia, State of New York, the defendant, with intent to prevent a police officer from performing a lawful duty, caused physical injury to such police officer during his escape.
You admit and plead guilty to that, sir?
Yes, I do.
You request that I accept your plea of guilty. You request that I accept your plea of guilty on all counts?
Yes.
You understand you will be sentenced in anticipation of being sentenced this afternoon? You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Justin DeArmas, attorney for DiQuann. Your Honor, I would like to be heard on something quickly.
I have no objection to that. I just have one other.
Our lives have been turned upside down due to something that could have been avoided, I feel. All because you didn't have the conflict resolution skills to handle things in a better way. A son lost his father, parents lost their son, I lost my brother, nieces and nephews lost their uncle, aunts and uncles, family overall, we lost someone. Our lives have been turned upside down since August 23rd, 2017. Our lives will never be the same. From August 23rd to 2017, we have a new normal. A son his son was 1. He will never remember his father. He will never get to speak to his father. All we are left with, along with his son, are memories. We can only tell his son stories of how his father was. He's never going to be able to get advice from his father. his father's never going to be able to see his first, meaning he'll never see his son's first day of school. He didn't hear his son's first words. He didn't see his son begin to walk. He's never going to see what his son could potentially grow up to become. His son will never be able to go to him to ask him for advice. There's other men in my family, and they can be there for him, but nothing compares to a father. I'm not sure if you have kids. I'm not sure if your father was there. But that is something that you stole from us, that we can never get back. Since August 23rd, 2017, it's been a struggle for us moving forward. We see things, we remember things, and we can only say, if Kevin was here, he would be doing X, Y, and Z. Not knowing if he would be doing it or not, but these are the things that we can only assume. His son graduated from kindergarten through pre-K. He wasn't there to see it. Sometimes his son looks at pictures of him and says, I miss my daddy. He has nothing of his father. When kids go to school, boys, their fathers go, they play basketball, they have donuts with dads, they have different events for fathers and students in school. My nephew is left to sit there, not because his father doesn't want to be there, but because you callously took his life, because you didn't have conflict resolution skills. I pray that during this time that you're given, that when you wake up every morning, when you sit in your cell, before you go to bed at night, when you talk to your family and you hear about the things going on in the outside world, that you're reminded of the reason that you're in that cell, because you didn't have the conflict resolution skills it took to be a man, and maybe talk things out. Maybe say, hey, we're going through something, how can we proceed? And everybody doesn't have to get along, but you can agree to disagree and walk away. And because you didn't, we're standing here, we're sitting here. My brother is no longer here. It's coming up on 6 years that he's been gone. And August 23rd of every year feels like the first day that my brother was taken from us. I had to go to a funeral home. I had to sit down and choose a casket to put my little brother in. I had to go into this funeral home on August 31st and look at my brother to say to them, I think he looks good. I feel like he looks presentable for us to present him to people to say their final goodbyes. I don't know if you ever experienced that. I pray that you never have to experience that. I have not grieved since my brother passed on August 23rd. August 23rd, 2017 was the first and the only time that I cried. I pray that the time you're given today will give me the closure that I have not yet to find since you've taken my brother's life. I pray for your soul, and I forgive you for me, not for you, not for anybody else. I forgive you for me so that I can move forward in my life and I no longer walk around with the burden of hating you, disliking you, or anything. I just pray that God has mercy on your soul.
Oldest cousin. His father is my uncle. Little Kevin, as I called him, never acknowledged me as his cousin. He looked up to me as an aunt because I had a hand in raising him. He grew up alongside my son. They were both close in age. Little Kevin was my baby, and there's not a single day that goes by that I don't think about him or quote one of his sayings. He had a special language, and if you knew Kevin, to know him was to love him. And if you knew him, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. He had a heart of gold and would give you the shirt off his back. When I used to cook his favorite foods, instead of him saying, this food was amazing, he would say, that was a bite. When I got the call that Kevin got shot, I was literally in disbelief. It felt like a nightmare. I immediately started making dua and asking the Lord to please protect Kevin. Send your angels around him. I kept saying out loud, Kevin, hold on, please, I'm coming. Just hold on. I then asked for traveling mercies because there was a bad storm that night, and we were coming 2.5 hours from the Bronx. And all I kept saying is, Kevin, hold on, Kevin, hold on. Finally, the rain stopped, and I got the call from my Aunt Tracy. And she said, he's gone. My son is gone. My son and Kevin's older sister started crying, and for some strange reason, I couldn't cry. I do believe that God had other plans for Kevin. What plans, I don't know. In my religion, we say that Allah is the best of planners, and you will be dealt with. The damage is already done because you took Kevin from us. But I hope your soul finds peace, because we still haven't found peace since Kevin is gone. To you, young man, I hope that you spend the rest of your natural life in prison, because the damage that you've done to this family, you don't even have no clue as to what you did to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Position relative to sentencing.
Yes, Your Honor. As Your Honor recalls, this defendant stands convicted of a 4-count indictment in which the defendant, on 2 separate dates, first being on November 26th or 23rd of 2016, where he used a handgun to take the eye of the victim in that case. The victim does not have the use of that eye. He lost it, and there was extensive testimony in that regard. Judge, additionally, the violence in the testimony that's in the record is uncontroverted that this defendant acted with extreme violence, not only by firing that handgun at the victim, but also further violence by taking that the victim's eye by beating him continuously with that handgun. The second, which is actually the first count, occurred on August 22nd of 2017, where this defendant, although the record is very clear that this defendant did not pull the trigger, the evidence also showed in this case, Your Honor, that each and every action by this defendant is the exact reason in why the victim lost his life on that day. There is no doubt about that, Judge. There is no sentence that this court can render that will bring back the victim or make the family whole. Additionally, Your Honor, I would ask that Your Honor consider not only the statements of the victim's family and all relevant factors, everything that's contained in the pre-sentence investigation, but I also ask Your Honor to consider the previous acts of violence that this defendant has chosen, and the acts of violence of this defendant, and the path of violence that he has left here in his wake. Specifically, his actions on November 23rd of 2016, his actions on August 22nd of 2017, his actions on January 22nd of 2018, where he, after the homicide, shot a handgun at another individual here in the city of Hudson. And then further, Judge, on April 2nd of 2018 in Albany County, the defendant shot the victim, in this case's brother, multiple times with a handgun. And that's why he's currently incarcerated today. Your Honor, it's very clear, based upon all of the actions of this defendant, that he has a violent history and that he is a violent person. Your Honor, the people would respectfully request that Your Honor issue the only just sentence that's required by law. And that's to sentence this defendant to the maximum period of time prescribed by law, with orders of protection on behalf of the victims for the victim's family. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. DeArmas. If you stand with Mr. Powell for sentencing.
We'd like
Powell,
to
you
be,
stand, please.
we'd also like to be heard, Your Honor.
Of course, go ahead.
Thank you. Judge, I've received the pre-sentence report. I've reviewed it in its entirety. I've also had the opportunity to review it in person with DiQuann. We're not making any suggestions to change anything factually in the report. We agree with its findings. Firstly, Your Honor, the officer drafting the report noted that my client was cooperative and respectful during the interview. My client, as he stands here today, Your Honor, maintains his innocence and he vows to appeal. As the people have already conceded and the court is well aware, it's a tragic death of Kevin Whitening, and we feel that in our hearts, but Mr. Whitening was shot and killed by Mr. Simmons, and he was acquitted in this court. DiQuann Powell did not kill Kevin Whitening. He'll maintain that position for the rest of his life. The victim impact statements were gut-wrenching, and my client also had hardships in his own life. He's had to choose a casket for his infant son, who was killed in a car accident. DiQuann's had a tough childhood, Your Honor, but he's a good person. I've gotten to know him well over the last 3 years. He's always been respectful and nice, and he can change, and he deserves a chance. We know we're going to be sentenced, and we know it will be harsh. And we've submitted letters from my client's family. They're begging this court for mercy. They love their son, and he loves them, and they're begging you for some mercy, Your Honor. The court recalls that the jury was deadlocked on this murder charge. And I disagree with the verdict. I respect their verdict. I believe my client's innocent. And I believe that 100%. And he will appeal. And we're ready to be sentenced, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Powell, at this time, you do have a right to make a statement to me before I impose sentence. You also have a right to remain silent. You're not required to make a statement. If you do wish to make a statement, please do so now.
To the family.
You can address me, Mr. Powell, not the family.
I understand that they lost somebody. I understand it's tragic they can't get him back. But me, I didn't kill Kevin Whitening, and they all know that. Every single one of them, even the officers, even you, even the DA, knows I ain't killed Kevin Whitening. To my family, I love y'all, y'all know the vibes. But Judge, you know, like I know, I didn't kill Kevin Whitening. They got up there and said, I killed him. They know I didn't kill him.
Are you finished, Mr. Powell?
I have kids. I have kids just like he have kids. Me spend the rest of my life in jail for something I didn't do, it's harsh. It bothers me. I never had no problems with Kevin Whitening at all. Me and him never had no run-ins, nothing. And to my family again, I love y'all. That's it, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Given the brutality and the violence that this defendant has perpetrated, and his life is a pattern of violence, frankly, of everything I understand and read. At the young age of 27, he stands here before me, convicted of these serious violent crimes. I impose sentence as follows. The mandatory surcharges and fees of $275 is imposed to be collected through corrections and parole, having jurisdiction over Mr. Powell going forward. As to count 1, murder in the second degree, I impose a sentence of an indeterminate term of incarceration, a minimum of 25 years, a maximum of life. As to count 2, assault in the first degree, and count 3, assault in the first degree, both Class B violent felonies, I impose separate sentences of 25 years determinate term of incarceration, together with 5 years of post-release supervision. As to count 4, attempted robbery in the first degree, C violent felony, I impose a period of a determined term of incarceration of 15 years, together with 5 years of post-release supervision. The sentences on count 2, 3, and 4 were run concurrently with each other. Those sentences were run consecutively to the sentence imposed on count 1. I do that because of the brutality of these crimes. These are obviously separate and distinct criminal conduct that led to these convictions, with a common denominator of the victim of counts 2, 3, and 4 being also a witness and present during the murder of Kevin Whitening, in fact, standing shoulder to shoulder with him. It shows a pattern of violence of this individual that's really unmistakable in my determination, and as I said, a case that cries out for sentencing to the maximum permitted by law of this particular defendant, who's demonstrated that his life is that of a violent person and will persist to be that of a violent person for the rest of your life, is what I am convinced of.